So hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on video forms that produce. And this is something that it's going to be interesting for me to present because while I am the Chief Experience Officer here at Render, and I'm a partner in this company, one of my fellow partners and our co-founder, John Toda, is here with me. I'll let him introduce himself in just a minute. But I'm actually going to be telling a lot of today's story from the perspective of a Render client, because if you don't know my story, before I became a partner in this company, I was actually one of the very first clients of this company, one of the very first people to get cloned in this way, to get my avatar captured. And my passion is finding really creative and really successful and efficient use cases and being able to share those with our customers. So this webinar today came kind of a dual thing, something I used in my personal business, and then something we at Render and the team has been working so hard on developing for all of our clients, and it kind of merges nicely together. And I am thrilled today that our CEO and co-founder and my business partner, John, is on the line because he has some different perspectives to share. So John, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Jill, for putting this on. I am super excited about this because I think for anyone who knows Render and what we've been up to, we've been producing digital likenesses for people, custom avatars and voice clones for about 4 years now. We've produced the most in the industry at this point. And one of our challenges was that we felt a lot of people just kind of were looking at avatars like a novelty, and they were using it in a way that you could have just shot that video on your phone. And what we really want to do is find ways that we could add efficiency to your business and to your lives and add some more productivity hacks, essentially, by using your avatars. And so video forms was our first of what we're calling avatar automations. And Jill's going to show you all the cool things that we can do with this, but it's kind of the first of a whole line of avatar automations that we have coming out now. And it's really with this goal of helping people integrate avatars into more aspects of their business and really adding some value, things you couldn't do yourself with video and things that your avatars can do that we all can't. So super excited for this talk. Thank you, Jill, and thanks everyone for being here.
And thank you so much, John. And everyone, John is going to be on this the whole time. So if you have technical questions or anything of that nature, you are absolutely more than welcome to just go ahead and put them in the chat. I've enabled it for everyone so we can see the conversation that's going along there. You can also put it in Q&A as well. But please know that this call is being recorded. Everyone who is registered. So if you're on here now and you have to drop for whatever reason, or you want to share it afterwards, because, oh my gosh, this is something we could use in our business, a recording will be sent out. So you will get that once I get it cleaned up, the start, finish, trimmed, and sent it out. It'll be sometime tomorrow. You'll get that. So without further ado, what I'd like to do, it will be a little fast paced today because I want to be able to answer questions throughout if you have it, is I want to, one, give a little introduction of myself for those of you who are new to the Render community or to my community or however you got to this webinar today, and then walk you through a little bit of the geeky technical process, but to show you what this actually is and what it can do. So for those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting in any capacity, my name is Dr. Jill Schiffelbein. I am Chief Experience Officer here at Render. I am also the founder and president of the Dynamic Communicator, a company that I've had in communication strategy and consulting for over a decade. And in my spare time, because we all have that, right? I'm actually an adjunct professor at the University of South Florida, where I teach AI and business strategy and business analytics. So all of these things kind of go together to create what you're going to learn here today. And it really all starts and stems from this slide. It's a slide that you probably saw in the email or the social media post or something that was forwarded to you. And you're welcome to try it out if you haven't already. It does work. This is live. But when I was giving a speech last month, I typically have a decent response on people, scanning the QR code, adding themselves to the email list. But like I think a lot of responsible business owners now, I have a double opt-in. So not only do you have to put your email in, you have to confirm it once it's in your inbox, because I don't want, number one, you signing up for this just for a quick thing or a freebie if you're not really interested in being part of that community later. And two, studies show and statistics show that if you have a double opt-in process to your email list, you have a higher quality of subscribers, you have higher rates of return, higher open rates, higher click-through rates, all of those things. So I want to make sure that that's happened. I used this at a speech in October where there were about 200 people in the audience. I had almost a 90% scan and submit rate. But what was even more impressive than that was after that double opt-in, which typically then drops to 50, maybe 40%, it was an 80% conversion rate, keeping my mailing list on my dynamic communicator business side sky high in terms of open rate statistics and everything like that, giving me better data, better consumers, and people that have converted into customers. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but what I want to do is walk you through the idea of these, what we call video forms, just for a non-complicated term. But as John said, they're really automations that you can use to have your digital likeness, your avatar, automated in different stages in your business. Because when it all comes down to it, we know that when your consumers, when your customers or your potential clients have communication that is personalized to them or customized to them or gives them a choice in how they consume content and interact with you, all of those things move the needle for more purchases, repeat buying, brand loyalty, referrals, all of those things. We want our communication to have these variables present. But why don't we? Well, because it takes a ton of time. So I am obsessed with finding ways where I can increase these without increasing my time on task and also giving my customers and my audience a better experience. And so here's how this starts. In terms of the video automation form, when people scan that QR code, they go to a form, they give me a little bit of data, and then within minutes, a personalized video from my likeness is delivered straight to their inbox or to their cell if they put in a phone number. You can do either or. If you scanned it already, in a few minutes, you're going to be having that. If not, I'll give you a chance to do it again at the end. But what I want to do is kind of walk you through the logic process of how this is created so you can start thinking of how you might want to utilize this in your business right away. So the first thing it starts with is, what do you want to communicate? In our world with Avatar Land, we call this the script, right? Or the message. What message are you wanting to communicate out to your audience? And once you have that, and for me, the message I want to communicate is a personalized message to anyone who fills out that form that then wants to engage with me in my monthly email newsletter that has different AI tips, tricks, highlights, use cases, etc. And I want to let them know what they're in for and give them a reason for why they should double opt in, why they should subscribe, why they should share, all of those different things. Again, just increase that rate. Then you need to understand, of course, who is your audience. For me, I wanted to create one base form, and then I have customized forms for different things, but I wanted to create one base automation where no matter where someone saw me, if they subscribed to my podcast, if they saw me on another podcast, if they saw me speaking at an event, if they read something on a blog post that had this link to this form, they can get to me and know the value that they're going to get after the fact. You have to also then figure out where the data is going to come from. So for me, it's this one piece of information form. For other automations, for any of you that have, schedule a time with me, a meeting on your website, or maybe you use Calendly, the data that you're collecting from that can populate back to what you want to communicate. And then you merge it all together to deliver all of these videos at scale in automation. So again, think of your message or your script, who the audience is, where you're getting the data from to personalize it, and how you're going to communicate it out afterwards. Like, how is that video going to be delivered? So when we look at it in this way, let me kind of break down how it worked for me at this, our very first, and this has been out for a while now, this is our very first type of a video form that was created and led development by our Chief Product Officer, Moki Goyle, and his team really got this working, and now it's being integrated in lots of different ways. So if you didn't scan the QR code already, you would come to a page and it would look like this. Once you're there, you would see a form that has some pretty simple questions. What's your first name? You don't have to put your last name if you don't want. Give me an email because I need to deliver. That's how it's going to be delivered. This, give me your business name. And then you'll notice that there are two questions that have drop-down menus. So what defines your role in the organization? So I want to know, because I know the script I want to deliver. Is someone a leadership role or are they a supporting role? Because there's different resources that will help each type of role. I also want to know what their experience is. And so you can see those drop down variables that I presented there that people can select. And then for me, the last two questions, what event or show did you see me at? And any notes you want to share? Those are things that I like putting on there. And it's amazing what people will fill out sometimes and the things that they'll share, but they're not mandatory fields. So again, I know what is mandatory for me to achieve the communication I want to achieve. And then I know what is optional, what data I would like to collect. So we develop the form. After that, you fill out the form, you get an email like the one on the left, and then you get a video delivered that is customized to you. Now, I did this with my own name, so it's going to sound very odd and meta, but I want you to take just a minute and I'm going to play this for you so you can see the automations, and then we're going to break down the process of how this happens so you can understand how you would take what you do in your business or what you would like to do and make this happen for you.
Whether you've heard my human counterpart on a podcast, seen her on stage, or have read her books, you know that she's passionate about sharing practical, actionable strategies. And Jill, you might have been able to tell that she's extremely geeked out on finding ways to use AI tools to humanize automation. When it comes to being in a leadership role in an organization, you know that it's important to understand the opportunities that new tools and technologies can bring to your business and team. As someone who is an explorer who has played in a few sandboxes, the monthly dynamic dose will deliver tips on tools that are productive and not just parlor tricks, so you can focus your exploration into generative AI and beyond. So stay tuned for more resources to help you level up your generative AI usage and create better, more meaningful customer experiences by learning new ways to humanize automation. Oh, if you want to learn more about how the real Dr. Jill can bring her keynote speaking, workshops, consulting, or custom avatars like me to your company, feel free to schedule a discovery call by clicking on the link below this video.
So I show you this so you can kind of see where the leadership role came in, where that drop down menu of experience came in, and I'm going to dissect it for you. But in addition to having a very high fill out rate and an insanely high double opt-in rate, this yielded 5% of people in the audience scheduling a meeting. That for me was huge. And people will say, oh, 5%, what is that? Well, 5% for me is tens of thousands of dollars in revenue coming from having one automation in place. So this is how I use this in my speaking business, in my consulting business, to be able to put this out there, have people have another reference point of me. Of course, is my avatar as like wild and crazy as I am in person? Of course not. It's your digital likeness. But what it does is it reinforces the digital presence and gives another visual reinforcement of social presence to people that have seen you and heard you in another context. Now they're getting that reinforced. And there's a ton of science-backed data that shows when you can reinforce that presence throughout the experience you have with your audience, with your customers, that you're going to see better results. I liken it to something similar as when, you meet someone at a conference or a networking event or, out on a date, whatever it may be, and then you follow each other on social media. Well, even if you don't see this person for another 6 to 12 months, those social presence drops that you see throughout that gap in social media build up that relationship over time. A digital likeness is akin to that in different contexts, which is why this is valuable on many levels. Now,
Whether you've heard my
let me break it down to you from a scripting perspective so you can kind of see what I was thinking I wanted to communicate and then how it actually happens. So you can see here the script. You don't need to read through it all. I want you to see it in this form because you're going to then see how, and again, this recording will be sent out if you want to analyze this a lot more further, the variable types that can go into it from an automation standpoint. So we have fill in the blank variables, like when people put their first name, and then drop down logic variables where they pick, are they in a leadership role or a supporting role? What's their level of experience with generative AI, which is one of the questions I ask. I see different people on the line, and let's say you were doing something with media and you wanted to know how much experience someone had with media coming in to this. How many times have they been on news? Have they been on camera before? Whatever it may be, you could cater it that way. Maybe you want to know how effective someone feels they are at storytelling, so you can better cater what resources you're going to send them. You can have drop down options for that. So the possibilities are endless here. But what happens is then when you look at the script, and again, only showing this because I know some people on the line are like, all right, let's break it down. How does this happen? And others want higher level, which we're going to zoom back out to. But you can see here in this script in green are the different things that change based on the input from your audience. So if you want to read through this now and look at it more, you can. And if you'd rather just listen, I want to give you another example. Think of any assessments that you've ever taken where, maybe you're trying to find your true colors, your personality, or maybe you've created an assessment or a quiz or something in your business that based on how people answer, they get categorized a different way, they get a different type of result. Now, you can create workflows and automations that will customize result delivery, that will customize learning, that you could put into individual course outlines if you wanted to for your clients solely based on how they answer a few questions or how they do on a quiz. So now you can have not only this automation in place, but it can be reactive directly to the needs of your audience based on specific variables, based on, again, specific inputs that go in. And that's what the exciting part about this is. So when you're thinking of how might this be a cool opportunity to start taking advantage of, I always try to have people put it in the context of your CX, your customer experience. And really, in the world of customer experience, there's four main stages that go into this. And the first stage is discovery. And this is really kind of your first impressions. So you can see that my form and my video form here is largely fitting in this stage because they have already had some type of impression of me. They're continuing to kind of decide if they want to have a meeting. But once they schedule a meeting and start that two-way communication, now we have engagement. Engagement in different businesses takes different forms, but in a consulting business or a service-based business or a speaking business, it typically involves a lot of iterations back and forth where you're getting a proposal, you're fine-tuning the details of a scope, all of these things that you probably have some processes that are very repeatable in what you do, and you could automate a lot of those with more personalized and customized communication. So imagine if you have a form on your website, and let's say you're a speaker, and in that form, it says what event they want you to speak at, maybe what topic they want you to speak on, who the audience is, the dates, etc. If you're getting all that data in a form, you could immediately, while they were waiting for their scheduled meeting, send a video with your likeness that says, I am the digital representation of the real Dr. Jill Schiffelbein, who you are going to meet with on, and then insert the date of your meeting. She's excited to talk to you about speaking at insert name of event and is available on insert calendar date. And if you're not available, you could have your system set up to tell you that. So there's all these different automations that if you have your data in order, you can pull data into something that is going to allow you to personalize that communication in a meaningful way. The third stage is kind of that execution, the delivering on a promise. So for me in a consulting type speaking business, how I could use this for execution is if my client signed up for not only maybe a speech, but for dripped out learning throughout the year for the audience, now I can do this in a way that personalizes it based on their job role, based on their industry, based on their category, all based on the data that I have on each person who's getting sent the learning material. So what I like to use this for is I tell people the body of my knowledge, my skeletal part of what I teach isn't going to change. And I typically have the real me on video for that. But based on the job role, based on the industry, based on the situation, the muscles on that body of work have to flex very differently. So when I need to help you strengthen your muscles, that's when my digital likeness is going to come in because I can create content quick that is personalized uniquely to the need that you have. And that is insanely well received because there's not only a logical reason for it, but they're getting better quality of content that's more customized and relevant to them. So that's a way to use it in execution. And then, of course, in continuation, imagine if you have a database set up because you're good, you have your CRM, your customer relationship management system in order, and you have a list of every single client you've ever had that you haven't engaged with in the past 6 months. If you have this data in order, you can create a batch render or an automated sequence where we pull the data based on, hey, Jill, it's been, 12 months since we last spoke. I had a great time at insert the event we were at. One of the things I'm doing now is, and you can select, what is relevant. You can communicate via these personalized videos to them. So again, your presence is getting reinforced and you're having a custom communicative touch point. So this is where there is so much ability for not only using your digital likeness, but for automating things that you're not taking time. A great question came in that says, could you use this as a touch point in a sequence of communications to prospects? 100%. The idea again goes back to one of those earlier slides, which is knowing the message that you're wanting to send, kind of what's the goal of that, who is that audience, where's that data coming from, and then of course, how you're delivering it out. So there's so many ways to personalize in the process, but I like to teach it from this customer experience perspective because let's be honest, if you're in business, whether you're a business owner or you're a leader in an organization or managing a team or any type of communicative process, there's things that cause you frustration. There are things that are friction, and there are places where you have attrition or drop off that you really wish you didn't. For me, I think of those things. I look at these 4 stages and I say, you know what? I really want to improve my execution right now and making it more personalized, or I really want to improve my prospecting period and make that more personalized. So I have a place to start. Because sometimes, if you're like me, you hear about things like this and your brain just explodes. And then I have to take a breath and reel myself in and say, okay, Jill, where do I feel this can be the most useful right now? Focus only on that, get that proof of concept, get the workflow going. And then once it's established there, you can replicate it so much more easily. So I like to show this to give you a place of kind of where to think about starting in this process if this is something that you have just been getting introduced to right now. Along with that, and you can see kind of what I put here, I really like to make sure that you're able to tie whatever you're doing to some type of communicative touch point, an objective, a goal, and have a metric or a KPI, a key performance indicator attached to it. Because I'm a very data-driven person. And so what I can measure, I can work on improving. So I know that having this video automation in place for me increased my double opt-in rate on signups almost double. It increased the number of follow-up calls and discovery calls and appointments wanting me to quote on consulting, quote on speaking that I've had from other engagements. And so I can quantify that this is working for me and then of course measure that dollar amount later. So I want to make sure when you're doing this, as John kind of mentioned earlier, we've been playing in this space for 4 years and we want to really work on ways that people aren't using this as a cool factor. Although, yes, don't get me wrong, I think it's cool, but as ways that are actually moving the needle. So I am very big on talking through, okay, great. Where in your customer experience does this fit? And how are we going to measure if it's successful or not? So we can know how to improve it and how to make it better as you're navigating through this process. So this again is a slide that I showed, and if you haven't tried it out and you want to try it out, please go ahead and scan this. You don't have to double opt in at the end if you don't want to. You don't need to worry about that, but scan this and you will get that video that you saw earlier, except it'll be personalized to you. And the script will change based on if you're in a leadership or supporting role. The script will change based on what level of experience you have with generative AI. And this is one example of many automations that we are working on at Render. But this one, for most businesses, if you have any type of pre-engagement form or you're trying to speak from the stage and you want to collect data and get people to sign up, you want to create something meaningful, you can do this right away. And if you're one of our clients already and you're thinking, holy heck, I really want to get on this, set up a call with me. And what we will do is we will look at how you can provide the most value to your audience through this video form so we can get you up and rolling with it and get your audience something that can surprise and delight. Because not all of you are talking about AI and generative AI communication strategies like I am. But if you're talking about communication, if you're talking about media, if you're talking about storytelling, if you're talking about any number of other topics, there is a way for your customer to put in data that generates into a script that then provides an immediate piece of digestible learning-based content that can attract them to have, again, higher follow-throughs, higher calls to action, etc. What I'm going to do at the last part of here is completely and totally geek out. So you're thinking of maybe one area of your customer experience or maybe one touch point, but I want to kind of show you how this works in layman's terms and how, as you're thinking of automations, that these video forms are only the tip of the iceberg. And so I want to kind of just give you an overview of how this actually works behind the scenes to make it happen. And I'm going to do this through the analogy of making an online purchase. So let's say that you've made an online purchase, and maybe it's, let's say, a jersey of one of your favorite NFL players. We happen to have a Hall of Famer who has an avatar, and this is a great use case for something like this. So we have a purchase made by the customer. When you have your systems in order, then a customer data profile is created that may already be directly to a CRM, or it may be in another system. They may or may not talk. Then if you have things integrated, you're generating a receipt. This is kind of those normal emails that you get back, like, thank you for your purchase, your order number is basic text, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. We got something. We like to have those, but it does nothing special. It's not breaking the status quo until you have an automation in place. You get that CRM, your customer relationship management system, that entry is updated so you have a good data source that is organized. Then that transfers through what's called an API. I call it a computer handshake. It's application programming interface, but in layman's terms, what it is, it's here's a system over here, here's a system over here. This one has data, this one needs the data. Let's connect them together, let them shake hands and watch that data go through from one to the other. That's not technically how it works, but that visual is all you really need. You need to have those systems being able to shake hands with each other and communicate back and forth. So once you have that, then if you are a render client, that script is delivered directly to the application and that video is generated, right? It generates that video for you. That video then, if you sync it up at an additional level, is kicked back to the CRM. So your CRM can send out that email, and then the data from the receipt is paired. And what you're getting sent out to your client is not only the thank you for your purchase receipt, but let's say in the case of this jersey that happened to be of this player, a video from the likeness of the player himself thanking you personally for that order. So this is only one example that you could see this walk through, because I think most of us have probably ordered something online at least once and we've gotten those text-based receipts. But this is a way, again, to up that personalization value and provide your users additional resources, additional emotion behind their purchase, additional excitement. And that's where the magic is. One more thing I want to show you very, very briefly for those of you geeking out at just slightly a higher level before I then give you a couple more examples and we wrap up here, is if you're thinking this is cool as heck, but I don't even have a CRM. I don't have my data in order. I have an Excel spreadsheet at best. Well, let's get you started. You want to first really kind of assess what data you're going to need or want. And then you're going to want to either clean or normalize it. So let's say you have data scattered in a million places. You're not at that CRM level yet. You need to decide, okay, great. I want to use this avatar. I want to use these automations to communicate about education after someone's engaged with me. Great. Then what data do you need? Assess that and then get it in one system. Then consolidating that in, whether it's to a CRM or a single database. Compliance and security and governance are also important too, right? And that's for higher corporate level. If you're on here, especially if you're like in finance and stuff, you really need to know and understand that. But the big thing is, if it's just you and your business, you can maintain this on your own. If you're working for a bigger team that you're relying on other people to put in data to, you just need to make this as part of your culture, that when you have your data in order, you can take advantage of these automations that provide better experiences for your customers. And at the end of the day, if we can provide better experiences for customers, it gives us tons and tons of benefits and residuals in our own businesses. So what I am going to do now, officially right at top of 30 minutes as planned, is say thank you again, putting that QR code up if you want to scan it and experience it, zero pressure whatsoever. But I want to open this up at the end to not only any questions, but to have John pop back on here too, to give some of his thoughts of what we're seeing kind of in the industry about some of the cool uses that we're doing for automation. So John, if you want to pop back on and say a few words, you are more than welcome to. And I will take the screen down in just a minute so it can just be the two of us. And please, everyone, type those questions in the Q&A or the chat area.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jill. I think it's great, and I love to see the way you're using the video form and just as a way to engage with your audience and with all the followers that we have online, and to be able to add a little more value with less friction in your human life is nice. And one of the things I see as Jill was talking about this is, all of our businesses have so many transactions done online today. And while that creates all kinds of amazing automation and efficiencies in your business, each one of them takes a little bit of the human element out of your business. And while you can't do that efficiently and cost effectively with, videos that you're creating on demand yourself, that's where an avatar can really add a nice personal touch, and your digital likeness can do something that's not that easy for all of us to do. Yeah, so we love it from, the scheduling perspective. And as Joe was talking, like the whole customer life cycle, and at just a basic level, a lead comes to your website, you have one touch point there, then they want to schedule with you. People put lots of information into your scheduler, and we should be able to use that to prepare them for the meeting in a very unique, personalized way with your avatar. And then they might purchase from you, and then you can deliver it that way. We're also right now, for anybody who's got an online course or some type of learning program, we're doing the very first integrations into learning management systems, so that a new person registers for your course and they get a personalized greeting from you. They complete a session or a module, a course, they earn a certificate, they get recognition from you. And those are things that are just really neat way to recognize people, keep them engaged, interact with them without you having to think about it. It doesn't increase your workload or any friction in your daily life, but it gives them that nice personal touch. So yeah, any system that generates data input, assessments, learning platforms, websites, that's kind of the fuel that makes these avatars really work. And we can repurpose that data that your end users are entering to create a real nice personalized video experience.
Thank you, John. I think it's great. And I see another question's come in, so I want to just make sure we address it. It's a great one. Where does the information collected go? The back end, are you able to use that? Thank you so much for that question. I'll let John answer as well, but the answer is it depends. It depends on your systems. It depends on what your output's trying to be. In terms of, if you have a video form like the one I showed you, if you wanted to start with that, how that gets eventually distributed to you, it's an easy access data in a Google spreadsheet that you can then export or import into any other system. If you wanted it so it is then linked into your system, there's a custom integration again with that API for a lot of systems that you can use, or you can use Zapier to help you with that. But John, what else is happening there?
Yeah, so as Jill just mentioned, we just completed our integration with Zapier. So Render's now listed in the Zapier marketplace, which allows us to do very efficient integrations with Salesforce, HubSpot, Calendly, Stripe, Square, whatever tool you use. And that's why we love Zapier, because we do that integration once. And when the data is collected, it will be used to generate the video, but it can be sent out through your email marketing system, through your CRM. All the data is collected and stored in your CRM. So really, we like to use this as a tool to capture data and to give a really nice user experience to your customer. But ultimately, that data is more valuable when we collect it and put it into your own CRM or other marketing tools.
And there's so many ways to do it. So whether it's like with, Calendly, if someone's scheduling a podcast with me, I am in the process of developing this right now. John and I have been working on this, but it's now like talking to 4 different systems at the same time. And we're having a lot of fun with it. So it's scheduled to be on my podcast. Well, I want to take that information. You have a video already that's generated, but now let's have another one generated that's about you coming on the show and being able to do these things. But at the same time, when you're doing that, I want you in my email list, I want you categorized, and I want you in my CRM. So I have you in multiple data sources. And that's the magic of automation and APIs, is when you have everything synced up and that data can talk, it really creates efficiencies that we just can't beat as mere mortals. Awesome. Checking to see if any other questions came in. You guys had some good ones today. But I think that's it. So we don't need to keep everyone any longer than that. But we thank you guys so much for logging in today. John, any last words you want to say?
No, just thank you for being here. Thanks for your interest in avatars and the automations around them. And try out Jill's form. It's a great example of what you could do with your own video form. And I love the way you integrate it with QR codes and make it really super easy for people to use. So yeah, try it out firsthand, see how the video experience is, and then we're happy to jump on a call anytime and talk to you about your own unique workflow.
Indeed. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. If you have any follow-up questions, you know how to reach us. And this recording, again, will be sent out late today or early tomorrow once it gets all cleaned up and rendered. So thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you.